They said I was found by the side of a road. There were tracks all around. It had recently snowed. In the darkness and cold, with the wind in the trees, a girl with no name and no memories but these. Rain against a window, sheets upon a bed, terrifying nurses whispering overhead. Call the child Anya, give the child a hat. I don't know a thing before that. Traveling the back roads, sleeping in the wood, taking what I needed, working when I could, keeping up my courage, foolish as it seems, at night, all alone in my dreams. In my dreams, shadows call, there's a light at the end of a hall. Then my dreams fade away, but I know it all will come back one day. I dream of a city beyond all compare. Is it Paris? Paris, a beautiful river, a bridge by a square, and I hear a voice whisper, I'll meet you right there in Paris. Paris. You don't know what it's like not to know who you are, to have lived in the shadows and traveled this far. I've seen flashes of fire, heard the echo of screams, but I still have this faith in the truth of my dreams. In my dreams, it's all real, and my heart has so much to reveal. And my dreams seem to say, don't be afraid to go on. Don't give up hope, come what may. I know it all will come back one
That was awesome.
Thank you.
So, Lila, the musical is based on 2 films of the same name and, of course, The Legend of Anastasia. What makes this stage adaptation different from the previous incarnations?
I think definitely the film that people are most familiar with would be the cartoon from 1997. And I think what really sets our show apart from these 2 other adaptations of this legend was that we really rooted it in reality. Everything is centered around the fact that these people are in a incredibly difficult time to be alive. The Russian Revolution was brutal. It was cutthroat, and I think that Terrence and Lynn and Steven really made sure that that reality is underneath everything that we do. Even little things like there was a Gleb in Anastasia's life. It was like one of their guard's sons. They used that name, to loop in some actual history, and I just think that that is incredibly important to our production.
You play Anya.
I do.
Tell us about her.
She is spunky. She is so determined, like the most determined person I think I've ever had the opportunity to play. She is also overwhelmingly compassionate And I think that is something I learned about her through our rehearsal process and fell in love with, because I do think that compassion is something we should all lead with. And so being able to demonstrate such compassion on stage, especially for audience members, it's a privilege and an honor.
A lot of people who might not have seen the show think of Anastasia as a princess. Is she a princess?
She is, and I think what's awesome about Anya/Anastasia is that she isn't your stereotypical princess. She's definitely got a little bit more bite to her than I think most royalty usually demonstrates. And I think what I love is that it shows young women everywhere that even if you're not the stereotypical demographic of a princess, you can still be a princess if that's something you want to be.
When did you first come to learn about Anastasia? The original story, the films?
My first experience was the cartoon, for sure, and I was obsessed with it, so.
And how did you hear about the musical?
So I was graduating college, and I heard that they were making it a musical, and I was obviously excited because I loved the film, and then I heard it was going to be a new story, so that was really intriguing to me. And yeah, so that's when I first heard about the musical. I've also been blessed and have worked with Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty before, so I was just excited for them to have another project coming to Broadway.
That's awesome. Tell us about the audition process and finding out that you'd be leading the company on the first national tour.
The audition process was insane in the best way. I was really blessed. I kind of lucked into the audition. I really didn't think I was even going to be seen for Anya. I was kind of like, I'll go for the standby. That would be awesome. But I went in and I worked with Tom Murray on the songs that you'll hear me sing today, In My Dreams and Journey to the Past. And he was like, all right, I'm sending you along your way to Darko and Lynn and Steven. And it was funny because Lynn and Steven had no idea that I was coming in. So when they saw me, they were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because I had worked with them when I was 16. So they saw me, the last time they saw me was when I was a teenager. So they were like, oh my God, you've grown up, all these things. And it was almost like coming home for me, seeing them. And it just made me realize, if this is meant to be, it's meant to be. But at least I get to see Lynn and Steven again, and I get to work on material that I love. And yeah, it was really a coming home for me.
The show first premiered in Hartford, Connecticut in 2016, and then opened on Broadway in March 2017. Now the show is on tour across North America. What has it been like to bring this show to cities across the country?
It's overwhelmingly humbling. It's something that, I grew up in New York, so I have never really experienced touring productions or anything like that. So to get to have the privilege to do that is really incredible, and also just to bring a story that so many people would not be able to see unless it were on the road is an incredible responsibility. And yeah, I've loved every minute of it, and I love working with my cast, and it's been great.
What has been the reaction of audiences across the country?
They love it. We have the best fans of this show. They really relate to Anya or Dimitri or Gleb, and I think that that's what makes this production so awesome to work on and so special. Yeah, it's been really wonderful. We've been very blessed.
What is different about your experience in New York versus traveling with this touring production?
So different. I did the Broadway production. I was the understudy to Dimitri, so I was in the ensemble for a while. I was only there for about 4 months, but it was my Broadway debut, so it was really exciting and also disillusioning at the same time. But it was a really special experience, and I was walking into a community, that had already been founded. The relationships had already been made. The show was totally set. So they really just plugged me in. They were like, here are your numbers, here are your costumes, boom, you're in the show. So it's been awesome to get to revisit the role, have a couple months off, have an entire new energy with this cast. And Sarah Hartman, our resident director, is amazing, and our stage manager, and having just a clean slate when we go into rehearsals, no expectations, and redoing the whole thing has been really freeing. It's been an awesome experience.
Lynn Ahrens and Steve Flaherty wrote several new songs for this stage adaptation. Tell us about this new original music and what it has been like working with Ahrens and Flaherty.
They have 19 new songs in the show.
Wow.
Only 5 of the songs in the show are from the original movie. But the music fits in so beautifully, like that song that you just heard Lila sing, that sounds like it's from the original cartoon. Working with them has been awesome. It's a dream come true. I mean, you mentioned Ragtime, but I did that show in high school, which, if you've ever seen it, I hope you didn't see it at a high school. But still, nevertheless, the music, I never knew that theater could tell such heavy, emotional, meaningful, specific stories. I mean, their music is so specific and so storytelling driven that working with them has just been, I just feel like a little kid every time they're in the room. I'm like, oh, they're here. But it's been so cool, and the music is glorious and challenging and really exciting for the audience. I think if you come to see the show, you're gonna walk away with a lot of tunes stuck in your head.
Speaking of tunes that are going to be stuck in our head.
Oh, God.
I think it's time to hear My Petersburg.
All right. So we just ran into some other street rats and got in a little fight, and she showed how aggressive and feisty she can be, which is cool to Dimitri. But then she says that I have it easy, and she knows nothing about me. So that leads into this song.
I grew up on the sly, in the gutters, in the streets of Petersburg. Just a kid on the fly, getting good at getting by in Petersburg. I've bartered for a blanket, stolen from my bread, learned to take my chances and use my head. A Russian rat is clever, or he ends up dead. Boils down to there are some who survive, some who don't, some give up, some give in. Me, I won't. Black and blue, welcome to my Petersburg. Standing here, you can see from the spires to the piers of Petersburg. I'd be down on that quay, selling stolen souvenirs of Petersburg. The palaces above and alleyways below. Funny when our city is all you know. How even when you hate it, something in you loves it so. That's where I learned my stuff, in some rough company. There's the boy growing up, who was me, all I've been, all I'll be. We can do what we're told, we can go where we're led, but I've learned from my father to see what's ahead. Nothing here to hold me, no one that I owe. Funny how a boy can grow. Funny how a city tells you when it's time to go. Boils down to there are some who have walls yet to climb. You and I on the fly, just in time. But tonight there's a sky and quite a view. Welcome to my Petersburg.
So, question for Jason and Steven. Anya is certainly the central character in this production, but the men she comes into contact with play significant roles in this story. Can you explain what each of these guys want from Anya and how that plays out through the journey?
I think for Gleb, she represents possibly a sense of normalcy potentially in his life. From the moment he meets her, he is taken by her. He's entranced by just her her demeanor, her toughness, and in the same sense as Dmitri, Gleb has had a very hard childhood, parents passing away, traumatic events, things like that, and he's so focused on the military and the regime right now. The moment he meets her, I think he thinks, wow, my life has a chance of being normal, because he's feeling things he had never felt for anyone before. So for him, she represents a conflict, of course, once he finds out who she is or who she's pretending to be, because he has this civic duty to do away with her, but his feelings from the moment he first saw her were very intense. So he's constantly teetering back and forth throughout the entirety of the show, his duty to his heart or his duty to his country.
I think for Dmitri, kind of similarly, at first he sees in Anya this opportunity, and he manipulates her, or tries to. And me and my best friend Vlad, he's the ex-aristocrat you were talking about, we sort of, put sparkly things in her eyes and try and make her princess, and we try and play it off and manipulate her into thinking that she could be the Grand Duchess Anastasia. And then once we get to Paris, once we get out of Russia and Dimitri's achieved his goal, there's still another act of the show left. And he finds himself with feelings for this girl that he didn't know that he had. He thought that she was a prop to him, a way to get out of Russia. And now he's really invested in her story. And she brings out of him this nobility and this vulnerability that you don't see in the first half of the show. Because I think it's really cool you're talking about, she's not the typical princess, because I think in a lot of typical princess movies or stories, the princess is sort of susceptible to whatever the prince is doing. And in this, it's sort of the opposite. We're susceptible to her actions, and she changes us. So it's really cool.
Jason?
Yes.
Who is Gleb?
So Gleb is a young, up-and-coming Soviet officer. His father was actually one of the guards who carried out the mass assassination on the Romanov family. And then his father had a bit of a mental breakdown and took his own life. So Gleb's aim is to sort of avenge his father's legacy.
Is he a villain, or is he misunderstood?
I would call him a hurdle to the protagonist. I wouldn't call him a villain, per se. Even in the breadth of the show, I don't think he could be considered a bad guy, let alone myself considering him one. I would just call him an intense dude who's pretty conflicted.
What do you like about him?
I like a lot about him. I love his journey. From where he starts to where he ends, it is such a wondrous arc for a character who really doesn't have that much stage time.
Gleb does not exist in the animated film.
No.
Do you know why the playwright Terrence McNally chose to axe Bartox and Rasputin?
I assume it's because what Lila was saying at the beginning is that they're going for a fictionalized realism for this tale, loosely based in history. And Rasputin died, I believe, 10 years before this, the bulk of this show takes place. I think he died in either 1918 or 1919. So in the movie, he's portrayed as a ghost in the animated film. So it would be a lot harder to pull off the realism aspect that they were going for if you have a ghost and his bat sidekick floating around stage. And that's not to say that those aren't wonderful, wonderful characters, but they are meant for an animated audience, and whereas this is meant for a real audience. I mean, it's a show for all ages, but it might take you out of the realness of it all. So they needed a new protagonist who you could connect with, who wasn't a caricature, like so many animated antagonists are. So you needed a real guy who was just bad by association for what he believed and what his uniform said, but might have a good heart.
Thank you. Joy?
Hi.
You play the Dowager Empress. What are the Dowager Empress's greatest qualities, and what do you like about her?
Well, she was very compassionate. She had a great sense of humor. She was gregarious. She was smart. And she was also helping people. And I think those qualities are wonderful.
You have such a robust resume. Into the Woods, Guys and Dolls, Pippin, Damn Yankees, The Sound of Music. You've performed in New York, on tour, in television, and in films. What makes this experience with Anastasia special?
Oh my gosh, this show is the most glorious show. It is so full of love and home and of the journey of finding yourself and also staying true to your heart and to keep following your dreams. I think it's a very inspirational story for everyone. When we talk to people after the show and we sign autographs, they are inspired by this show to find their truth. And the brave of Anastasia, I mean, for a young woman to have, marched across Paris to get to Russia and to follow her dreams. It's just a thrilling show. It's so beautiful, the music, the lyrics, the lighting, the costumes. I mean, I think it's a perfect show.
You had the opportunity to perform with two very talented, very young actresses in this production. Tell us about working with the little Anastasias.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. Oh, to see their little faces every night and get a look into those eyes. And they are so in the moment. And that's another thing. Everyone in this show is in the moment. But I'm going back to the girls. Oh my God, these little girls. I just want to squeeze them and take them home. Delilah Pelo and also Addison Valentino. Those are the two young ladies that are getting to play little Anastasia. And so when I sing that first song in the show, they just look you right in the eyes and you can't help but fall in love with them. And I'm crazy about them. Mm-hmm. And I will always be in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Lila and Joy, tell us about the special relationship between Anya and her grandmother and how that fuels the story.
Yeah, so like Joy said, Anastasia was the Dowager Empress's favorite granddaughter. And so in her youth, Anastasia had a very special bond with her. I believe it's because they were very similar. The Dowager's stubborn like Anastasia, but the Dowager's also overwhelmingly compassionate. And they think that that's where Anastasia really got those qualities. Even in her, towards the end of her life, when she could, she would volunteer at Red Cross and nurse and things like that. So she was a very compassionate girl, and I do believe it came from her grandmother. And in terms of Anya only wants her family in the beginning of the show. All she wants is to know who she is and where she belongs so she can be with her family. So when she finally gets to meet someone who looks like her, talks like her, acts like her, in a world where not a lot of women were like that, I think she immediately is like, you have to be who I'm looking for. And I think that that's what draws them together is Anya's drive to find her family and the Dowager's drive to find her family as well in a different way.
Well, she's trying to find Anastasia.
Yeah.
I mean, she put out rewards, a huge amount of money. And so a lot of young women would write from all over the countries and saying that they were Anastasia. And so by the time I actually get to meet Anya, this young woman, I've gotten to the point where I don't believe she exists. But I will listen to her, this one time more. And by that time, I do accept her as Anastasia.
Being part of a touring production is a unique experience for a performer. You are traveling with and performing with each other nearly every day. What makes this experience special, and what have you learned from each other?
I think we all really love each other, which, I think usually casts have love for each other, but I think when you're thrown into a touring environment, I do really feel like we have to be family for one another. We have to be able to rely on each other when we're in time of need or anything like that. And I just do feel an overwhelming amount of love from every company member.
This musical is now playing across the globe. There are now productions in the US, Spain, Germany, and the Netherlands. Why does this musical and its message have such a worldwide appeal?
Well, I think the legend of Anastasia in and of itself, this resurrection of a girl who lost her life so young, is relatable to anyone, anywhere. And I mean, I have the privilege of knowing Hannah in Spain and Judith in Germany, who play the two Anyas in Germany and Spain. And I mean, we've talked about how this role is just such an incredible story and character to relate to, and I think that's why it does well globally.
I agree.
It's really rare, I think, that a production does what this team has done to just put a bunch of productions out there internationally. It doesn't usually do that. It might go like West End, Broadway, national tour, like one after the other, closing and opening. And this is like, everyone's gonna love this, and they do. I don't know how they had that, know-how, but I think also the animated movie everyone thinks of so fondly. And I get messages from people on Instagram like, "Come to Australia." I'm like, "Okay, sure."
Every day.
And the final question: what is the heart of this musical?
Family.
Bartok.
Love.
I'm going to go with home.
Oh.
Home, love, family, and Bartok. What they said.
But I do think home, love, and family are all basically the same thing.
Well, yeah,
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
because what this musical talks about is that she spends the whole show looking for her blood family, but what she ends up finding throughout all these other people are that you can also have a chosen family. Like that's the beauty of life and love in the same way. Like you are born and you will love your parents forever, but you can also grow to love people who aren't your blood relatives. You can meet people and grow to love them and have them be your home and have them be your family.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jinkies.
Awesome. Lastly, we'll have Lila perform Journey to the Past.
Heart, don't fail me now. Courage, don't desert me. Don't turn back now that we're here. People always say life is full of choices. No one ever mentions fear or how the world can seem so vast on a journey to the past. Somewhere down this road, I know someone's waiting. Years of dreams just can't be wrong. Arms will open wide. I'll be safe and wanted. Finally home where I belong. Well, starting now, I'm learning fast on this journey to the past. Home, love, family. There was once a time I must have had them too. Home, love, family. I will never be complete until I find you. one step at a time, one hope, then another. Who knows where this road may go? Back to who I was, on to find my future, things my heart still needs to know. Yes, let this be a sign, let this road be mine, let it lead me to my past and bring me home at last.
We have a few minutes open for Q&A from the audience, so we'll move into that portion of our talk.
Lila singing Journey of the Past. Aaliyah sung that and won awards for it. So how was it living up to that? And for all of you, how was it living up to a movie that people know so well and love so much?
There's been 3 women from the United States that have gotten to sing Journey to the Past and bring it to its fame. So Liz Calloway, Aaliyah, and Christy Altomar. So coming after the 3 of them it's definitely a little daunting because they're all amazing. So I think what really helped me was to really be true to myself and to make the character and the part my own. So I saw the Broadway show once, and that was like right when it opened, so long before I was ever it was even on my radar that it was going to be a tour. And I really honestly tried to stay away from the soundtrack or the show or the movie just so I could make it my own. And now I kind of want to go back and see it again now that I feel like I've figured out my Anya. And that's the other thing is our creative team was very, very adamant and supportive that we have the privilege to make it our own. And that's not always the case. So a lot of that also stems from the fact that our creatives were like, yes, do it differently. Do what you need to do to make it yours.
So I know whenever you're able to kind of take up residence within a specific theater, like before you go on and perform, you have very specific like routines and regiments that you make sure you do throughout the day. Like when you're on a traveling show, I'm sure that throws a wrench in your plan every single day. So like how do you create that sense of normalcy for yourself before you go on stage?
It's always a relief when we get to a new theater to see the set. Then it's like, oh God, I'm home. And it's like, because each theater is so different, and it's like a maze, and to find my way around, I need a guard or a guide dog. It's like, oh my God, where am I? And it's challenging, traveling from city to city, to tell you the truth. But knowing that we are a family is a grounding. And doing the show and telling this amazing story and getting to sing these beautiful songs, that grounds me.
I agree with you. Once I'm on stage, I feel fine. But the backstage is always different. The dressers are always different. The first night is a small disaster every night before the show. I mean, for me at least. And we have not a lot of time to do a sound check and an orientation just to, get our feet wet in the theater, and then it's time to do it. But once I'm on stage, it's fine. But I think we all have our tricks for how we live on the road. I have found that I love to do Airbnbs instead of live in hotel rooms because nothing is more soul-sucking to me than just living, eating, breathing all in the same room all day long. So that's the one thing that I do that really keeps me sane is have a kitchen or a family room. It's a big difference.
Kitchens are very important.
Yes, that's very important.
And we don't always get them.
I travel with a double burner and a skillet, and I'm not the only one. And so I make food. Don't tell the hotels.
Okay, don't tell them this. Sorry, Erin.
Anyway, yes, it's grounding to be able to have normalcy. You know, being able to get up and make my breakfast. And
Laundry. God, I never thought I'd like doing laundry.
Oh, my word. I never thought doing laundry would be grounding and feel so good. That is crazy. But it's normal routine for me.
Yes, and we all find our routines that work for us, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's writing, whether that's going on a walk. Like, we all have our own, like Joy was saying, our own sense of normalcy. But when we get to the theater, that's actually the one thing that is more or less a constant. Sure, our dressing rooms are different. Like, there's little differences here or there, but that stage is always the same measurement. Sometimes the backstage is different. But when you're on stage performing, that's where you feel normal, regardless what city you're in, regardless what city you're, what stage you're on. It's being out there that is always the constant.
Yeah, and the other thing I think a lot of us do is also a lot of us unpack. Even if we're only there for like a week, we set up our hotel rooms and our dressing rooms or our Airbnbs to be like our space. It can be really difficult when you like turn to your nightstand and there's not a picture of your boyfriend and your dog. You know what I mean? So also making the space your own is really important. So even if that means a couple extra pounds in your suitcase, I think it makes a world of difference.
Mm-hmm. I traveled 2 blankets. I was a blankie kid, so it made me feel like home.
Hi, so my name's Kendrick. I have a 19-year-old sister who's always dreamed of being on Broadway. She's going to be a sophomore in LA at LMU. And what advice would you give to her to make it maybe be in your shoes?
Well, being in LA, first and foremost, I would tell her to start auditioning for the theaters there. I spent a few years in LA, and I worked a lot with the kids in current musical theater programs. I think the best way to learn is to get out there and do it. BFA programs are great, colleges are great, but you can't really understand what goes into the daily life of being a working actor until you're working at those professional theaters. So my first advice would be learn as much as you can at school, but also start going on auditions in town. LA is a great theater community, and just start breaking the ice now. That would, because it's a great place to get your start.
I also think talking about the fact that this industry is hard, so learning to tune out noise is really, really important, because no matter how many people love you, there's always going to be at least one that doesn't. Art is subjective. It is not definitive. So I do think learning how to manage that early on is really helpful, and being patient, because sometimes you have to wait 3 years for a job and it just ends up being a great one.
Art is only definitive when it's Audra McDonald. That's the one thing.
Yes, that's very. Audra is the only one
That's
who's
the one thing we can all agree on.
Audra and Meryl.
Yes.
And I would say just keep talking your dreams alive.
She does it every day.
She at the stage door every day. Joy Franz has a 5-minute conversation with every person waiting for an autograph to tell them to follow their dreams.
Yes.
And
But
it's
no
my
joke,
favorite thing in the world.
every day she goes,
Every single day.
I'm going to get my TV show. It's true.
Thank you.
Talking it alive.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm seeing the show this weekend. I'm very excited. With a show so much about family, but while you're traveling and far from your families, how do you keep that idea of family and home kind of with you and keep in touch with your family to keep that part of your life kind of going while you're not in your physical homes?
I think the show is honestly what kind of keeps us grounded and in touch with our family. I mean, obviously we communicate with them. We all have like FaceTime and, I always Skype with my boyfriend in the morning, and I don't get to see my dog very often, which is really crappy. But, I do think that what we were saying about our cast being a family is very important to that, but also the fact that we're doing a show about home, love, and family, it just kind of makes you appreciate your time with them more.
And also we do get some layoffs, so we can go home to our family and see our pets. Oh my God, I miss my dog so much.
3 of my 4 years I've been on the road. So it really puts, it shines a light on the people who are really important to you.
And while we all keep up with our families on FaceTime or Skype or WhatsApp, like what Lila was saying, like the cast is a family. There are maternal figures, there are paternal figures, there are brothers and sisters, there are kids. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have 2 little girls.
Oh my God, yes.
It raises like like I saw them just holding hands, skipping through the halls a couple days ago. It just raises the morale of everybody, just having ranges of all ages, and everyone is so kind and so dear. So I mean, now we have two families. We have the ones we talk to on the phone and FaceTime, and the one we get to be with every day.
Plus, those little kids make you want to set a good example as to how to be as an adult. And that's what I mean is we're a family, and we just want the best for each other. And our kids definitely are the best.
Our kids.
They're our kids.
They are our kids.
My
They are.
grandchildren. These are all my grandchildren.
My chickadees.
Thanks again for everyone for coming by, and thanks so much to Lila, Jason, Steven, and Joy for taking the time out to join us here at Google. We really appreciated hearing your performances and also learning more about the show and learning more about your experiences as performers on tour.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Come see it.